Today we're testing the Sony A9G. It's a 2019 OLED TV and the successor to the A9F from last year, putting it as Sony's highest-end OLED model. This means it competes with the highest-end models from other manufacturers, like the Samsung Q90R and LG OLEDs. We bought the US 55-inch model to test, but it's also available in 65 and 77 inches. We expect these other sizes to have very similar picture quality. Note that Sony models do vary in model codes depending on the region, so the equivalent in Europe is the AG9. We expect it to offer the same performance and features though. In this review, we'll start by looking at the design of the TV and then move on to the picture quality. We'll look at the motion handling, input lag and sound, and then compare to other competing models which are currently available. If you'd like to skip straight to our test results, then see the links in the description below. The design of the A9G is impressive. It's different to last year's A9F, whose distinct design resulted in a backwards lean. This year, the TV sits vertical on a very minimalist stand. It looks great and feels stable. A potential downside for some is that it doesn't raise the TV, so there's no room to put anything in front like a soundbar. Moving around to the side, like other OLED TVs, the borders are very thin and look good. The TV itself is also thin, so it won't stick out much if wall-mounted. The rear of the TV is very interesting, as it's broken up into a number of squares, some of which hide removable panels to cover up inputs or cables. This looks really neat, as the panels basically disappear into the regular pattern on the back of the TV. The small 3-button remote is located on the left-hand side of the TV and functions the same way as other Sony TVs. It can be a bit hard to find by touch when you aren't used to the position, which may be frustrating if the TV is wall-mounted. It provides basic functions like toggling the power and changing volume or inputs. The inputs are located at the side and bottom of the TV. There's a wide range of inputs, including composite for older devices, but it requires a small adapter which isn't included with the TV. This TV also has speaker terminals, so you can connect it to an external receiver to play music through the TV itself. All of these inputs can be completely hidden out of the way thanks to the panels. Looking at a thermal image of the TV, the usual OLED heat distribution is visible. The panel is relatively uniform as each subpixel produces its own light. Now we'll move on to the picture quality. We'll be comparing to currently available TVs, but competing models may change as new TVs are released throughout the year. For an updated comparison with new models as we buy and test them, see the review page on our website, which is linked below. A TV's contrast ratio measures the ratio between the amount of light emitted by a display in bright areas compared to dark areas. We measure this on a checkerboard pattern, comparing the brightness of a 100 nits white to the surrounding black rectangles. TVs that use a transmissive technology like LCDs have a light which is then filtered to produce the correct brightness for each subpixel. This filter isn't 100% effective, so increasing the brightness of the display also results in a raised black level. TVs which use an emissive technology like this OLED TV don't have this problem, as the black level doesn't raise no matter the brightness. This results in a perfect contrast, which is excellent for a dark room. Now, although OLEDs are able to produce perfect blacks, they do still tend to have some issues in very dark scenes in a dark room, as there can be issues with horizontal or vertical banding. Some people find this distracting, and unfortunately the A9G appears to be in the same ballpark as other OLED TVs, like the C9 or A9F. Note that just like when viewing these scenes on the TV itself, you probably won't see any banding unless you're also viewing this video in a dark room. Despite these uniformity issues in dark scenes, for scenes that are brighter, the uniformity of OLED TVs is excellent. To measure this, we take a photo of a brighter 50% grey pattern on each TV. This is because uniformity issues, which tend to affect all colors, are most noticeable on this uniform grey background. Issues here can result in distracting areas known as the dirty screen effect, which are problematic when playing games or watching sports. The A9G performs exceptionally well, which is excellent. This is much better than the Q90, which has vignetting around the edges and non-uniform areas near the center. Now, if you sometimes watch off-axis or have wide seating, then good viewing angles are important to ensure an accurate image from any viewing position. The A9G offers excellent performance as the gamma remains very consistent. The brightness also doesn't drop much, which is good, but the colors do shift, so it's far from perfect. All of these TVs perform well, as can be seen in the video. The Q90R has an optical layer to improve viewing angles, so check out our review videos linked below if you'd like to learn more. Now, if you've got a bright room, then good reflection handling is very important. The A9G offers almost exactly the same performance as other OLEDs, including the C9 and last year's A9F. It's excellent and does help to reduce the intensity of reflection significantly, but also results in a purple tint, which some people don't like. The Q90R is the standout among these TVs, with the best reflection handling we've seen so far. This is excellent for those in a bright room. A bright image is also important to counteract glare. When watching SDR, the brightness is limited to about 350 nits. As the brightness of the picture itself increases further though, like on our full screen white slide, the TV's ABL or automatic brightness limiter kicks in. This restricts the power usage of the TV and limits the brightness of the whole screen to about 150 nits. This is fine for most people, but in a bright room it may not be enough to counteract glare. When watching HDR content, a high peak brightness is important to produce highlights that stand out. The A9G is brighter in HDR than SDR and can produce bright highlights in our HDR real scene at about 600 nits. This is a bit lower than we measured on the LG C9, which uses the same OLED panel, but we don't know if this difference is just a result of variance between units. Overall, while the A9G is likely bright enough for most people, if you really care about a bright image and highlights that stand out, then a bright LCD TV like the Q90 or Z9F may be a better choice. A wide color gamma is important for producing vivid colors in HDR content. The A9G can produce a wide color gamut, which is great, but it's actually a bit lower than what we measured on the A9F and C9. We compared the TVs side by side with the same Rec 2020 HDR signal sent to both TVs to confirm this difference. We don't know why this is, but the difference is small enough that it isn't likely to be noticeable without a side-by-side comparison. Overall, it's still great for those who plan to watch HDR. We also measure the EOTF, or electro-optical transfer function, of each HDR TV. This measurement shows how the brightness of the TV changes depending on the signal level or stimulus. The yellow line in this plot is the reference PQ curve, or the brightness that an ideal TV should follow. This reference line is unachievable by any TV at the moment though, so every TV has a way to tone map the input signal to the display's capabilities. This TV follows it accurately, which is good for those who care about watching movies with accurate colors as the director intended. Like other OLED TVs, the A9G may have the risk of burn-in after displaying long periods of static content. It uses an organic compound to emit light, which degrades with usage. You can see our video series linked below for an investigation into this issue. However, we don't expect it to be a problem for most people who change the content that they watch. So now for the motion. To learn more about motion on TVs, check out our video series, which is linked below. OLED TVs like the A9G have an almost instantaneous response time. This results in very little blur following moving content, as most of the blur is the result of persistence from sample and hold of the image. This fast response time is great for gaming and watching sports. Unfortunately for low frame rate content, this also means that there's no blur to smooth between frames of low frame rate movies. This results in jarring movement when displaying long, slow panning shots. If you don't mind the soap opera effect, then the motion interpolation feature helps with this issue by increasing the frame rate of content. Although overall the response time is very good, OLEDs tend to have more issues in darker scenes. This can result in some faint artifacts. A lot of people don't notice it though, either because it's faint or the content they watch doesn't highlight these problems. Now, if you care about an even clearer image when gaming, then black frame insertion can be used to clear up the persistence blur. Like the A9F and other recent OLED TVs, the A9G also supports a black frame insertion feature. For 60Hz content, this displays each frame for half the duration with black frames in between. It works well to clear up persistence blur and is useful for gamers. Those sensitive to flicker might find it distracting, and it reduces the screen brightness significantly though, so it definitely isn't for everyone. Now, if you plan to game or use the TV as a PC monitor, then a low input lag is important to reduce the delay between an action in-game and when you see it on the screen. The input lag is low at about 27 milliseconds for 60 Hz content, whether HDR or SDR. At 1080p 120 Hz, it is a bit lower at a bit less than 20 milliseconds. Strangely, 1440p 120 Hz measures noticeably higher. We don't know why this is, but it may be fixed in a future firmware update. Overall, it's fine for gamers, but not quite as good as other flagships like the LG C9 or Samsung Q90R. Unfortunately, this TV doesn't accept a 4K 120Hz signal. Sony is one of the few manufacturers that hasn't been announcing future edition of HDMI 2.1, so it's likely that this resolution won't ever be supported on the A9G. On to the smart features. Like the X850G, the A9G has a new and faster processor compared to previous Sony TVs. It feels much faster than last year's models and results in a fluid experience when browsing the menus or opening apps. The remote has also been upgraded, and while it keeps many of the same buttons as previous Sony remotes, it does feel a bit more premium and more intuitive to use. There's also a button for direct access to Google Assistant, and the remote works even outside of line of sight, which is nice. Now for the sound. The A9G has drivers behind the screen, which is a feature designed to help with the sound direction. Overall, the sound quality is decent. It can get fairly loud and is good for most environments. It produces clear and well-balanced dialogue and can deliver a good amount of punch to its bass, but it lacks thump or rumble. For even better sound, dedicated speakers or a soundbar is recommended. A neat feature is that the TV has speaker terminals, so you can use it as a center channel speaker if you'd like. So overall, the A9G is an excellent TV with impressive picture quality. It's the successor to the A9F and has a very different design which looks great. The overall performance is very similar though, and we don't know if the relatively few differences are a result of variance between individual units. Compared to the LG C9, the biggest difference is the cutting-edge features on the LG. It has lower input lag, which is great for gamers, and supports the HDMI 4 variable refresh rate for nearly tear-free gaming. The C9 also supports HDMI 2.1 for future-proofing, but we haven't tested this yet as no HDMI 2.1 sources are available. If you don't care about this, then both TVs have very similar overall picture quality, and they actually use the same LG panels. LCD TVs like the Q90R have different performance, so the best TV depends what you care about. The A9G can produce perfect blacks in a dark room and has excellent wide viewing angles. On the other hand, the Q90R can get much brighter, which is especially great in a bright room or with HDR content. It also has plenty of features to please gamers and has no risk of burn-in. So that's it. What do you think of the Sony A9G? Have you bought it? Let us know down below. You can check out all of our measurements on the website. And if you like this video, subscribe to our channel or become an insider on the website for access to our latest test results first. Thank you for watching and see you next time.